The polar vortex is about to change the weather dramatically as we head into January 2025, starting with an Arctic blast that could bring extremely cold temperatures as far south as the Gulf Coast. Forecast models show this intense weather pattern could last for weeks, with freezing conditions expected across the southeast and possibly even snowfall in the south. In this video, I'll be showing you what we're expecting to unfold over the next couple weeks in terms of dangerously cold temperatures and also potential for heavy snowfall. But first, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe while you're at it for more bone-chilling weather updates. So here's a look at the 500 millibar height according to the Euro model on Tropical Tidbits. It shows the blue colors are below average heights, the orange and red colors are above average heights. The below average heights tend to be colder than average temperatures. Above average heights would indicate above average temperatures. December 31st, you have tomorrow, New Year's Eve, you actually have a trough. This is a small weather system over the kind of the Midwest, the Ohio Valley area, and you have below average heights that start extending. This is going to start bringing down a lot of the colder air as we go into January, and you can see these below average heights, and this troughing really moves to the east. Behind that, you're going to have a lot colder temperatures sliding down into the Midwest. And then as you go towards January 4th, you have still this trough really intensifies. You have a pretty intense looking trough. It just kind of stays there and gets more intense. Then you have another system kind of moving towards the northwestern US. But then what happens is that one kind of moves east and kind of still contributes to a lot of this troughing across the eastern part of the U.S., and that's going to really bring in those below average temperatures and also winter storms across some of these locations. And then you could see going towards January 7th, January 8th, you have more troughing and more storm systems, even a storm kind of towards the southwest and even Texas possibly going towards like January 9th. And then this still stays pretty intense, and you have more systems. That just helps add to the colder air. Really keeps this weather pattern in place. As you go towards January 14th, still a lot of troughing over the eastern two-thirds of the U.S. The only places with ridging would be the west coast, the Pacific Northwest. Here's a look at the temperature anomalies. Definitely, you could see the below average temperatures across like southwestern Canada. Then those really slide down once you go past like January 2nd, January 3rd, January 4th. Then this Arctic blast really moves in, and then you have across the central U.S. well below average temperatures, especially across the central U.S., the Midwest, and this continues for a long time. And then you just keep having these well below average temperatures staying in place for a long time. This is going from all the way from Saturday, January 4th, maybe even Friday night on January 3rd, but then it just keeps going for at least a week. This would be a week of well below average temperatures across the eastern two-thirds of the U.S., really. There's kind of a break. It starts warming up, especially across the Midwest, kind of in the Great Lakes and the northern and central plains. It kind of warms up, but then you have another Arctic blast that really moves in, continuing those well below average temperatures basically for the first half of January. Here's the actual temperatures. You have below zero temperatures starting to move into the northern plains, North Dakota, and parts of Minnesota, but then these colder temperatures start pushing further south over time, and especially across like Iowa and even part of Illinois. You could have temperatures below zero, maybe even like negative 15 degrees across parts of Iowa, and then temperatures going down to like negative 25 degrees below zero in northern Minnesota, and even temperatures getting close to zero across all the way down into like Kentucky by January 9th. And then this continues, and notice you actually have temperatures below freezing across the southeast. You know, southern Alabama, southern Georgia, In the Carolinas, temperatures could be in the mid-20s. Those freezing temperatures could get close to Florida. Apparently, you could have in central Florida temperatures near freezing, and that could be a problem for the citrus trees that grow there. By January 12th, that's what the Euro model is showing, in temperatures in the low to mid-20s in the Florida Panhandle. And then notice these temperatures start to warm up a little bit. It gets above freezing, maybe temperatures in the 40s, mid-40s across the south, but then another Arctic blast really moves in, bringing temperatures below zero again across the Midwest, and then those below freezing temperatures are going to start moving further south and east again. So this could last a while, and the wind chill temperatures are going to be even colder. You could have wind chills, basically temperatures feeling like negative 30 degrees across the Dakotas, Minnesota. This has happened before. There's been even more intense Arctic blasts than this, but I guess what makes it significant and possibly problematic is that it's expected to hit the southeast. That's the more significant part of it. And feels like temperatures could feel like they're in the low 30s all the way into like southern Florida. That's not the actual temperatures, but that's what it could feel like. January 12th, you have temperatures feels like temperatures in the teens across the Florida Panhandle. So that colder air is definitely extending pretty far south with wind, makes it feel even colder. And then you have wind chill temperatures well below zero, extending all the way down into as far south as Tennessee, perhaps, according to the Euro model. And you have wind chills approaching negative 40 degrees across northern Minnesota, places like that. That's the Euro model. GFS model is even more dramatic, showing an even more intense Arctic weather pattern. You have all this troughing, and this is still by like January 4th, you have this trough off the East Coast, and then that's going to bring down colder air behind it. But then what happens is by January 7th, January 8th, you have more kind of shortwave troughs that really enhance this weather pattern across the eastern U.S. Notice how the troughing kind of stays in the same place, but you have these smaller systems that kind of rotate around and make it even more intense. And this is going all the way to January 15th, where it looks really intense, especially like around January 11th, January 12th, and then by January 15th, these are extremely below average heights. This would indicate intense troughing. You could have temperatures well below average, and also this could also, all of this troughing is going to definitely lead to some winter storms, possibly heavy snowfall, which we'll look at in a few minutes. And this is the temperature anomalies, according to the GFS, are even more intense, because you have this first kind of Arctic blast brings these below average temperatures reaching down into the southeast, about 20 degrees below average in some places, but then it almost looks like it kind of warms up to near average in a lot of places. But then you have a second Arctic blast. So this is multiple Arctic blasts coming. Monday, January 6th, going into the night, and then Tuesday, January 7th, you have temperatures 20 to 30 degrees below average across the northern and central plains, and also the Midwest, even Missouri. You could have temperatures like 30 degrees below average as far south as there, and then it even intensifies a little more. You have, by January 8th, you have temperatures 35 to 40 degrees below average across Missouri, even Kentucky, the Ohio Valley, and then that kind of weakens down. But then you have another Arctic blast in the same place, even more intense, by January 12th on the GFS. Saturday night, on the 11th, going into January 12th, you have temperatures over 40 degrees below average, and then it just stays well below average across these areas, and you have repeated Arctic blasts going across this area all the way till January 15th on the GFS. The actual temperatures are going to be pretty low. You have temperatures getting down below zero, even in northern Arkansas, even Tennessee. Perhaps it kind of fluctuates. You have days where it's going to be less intense, but then you have multiple Arctic blasts that make it even more intense at times. Looks pretty intense going all the way down into the southeast. January 11th, it looks like, bringing temperatures below freezing all the way down to the Gulf Coast, and low 20s for the Florida Panhandle, and then temperatures getting close to zero for northern and central Arkansas, even western Tennessee and Kentucky, according to the GFS, and this continues all the way till the middle of January. And the Climate Prediction Center, they actually have significant Arctic outbreak to expand across much of the central and eastern U.S. from January 7th to January 13th. They're really looking at this because across the eastern two-thirds, really, of the U.S. is going to be extremely below average, especially reaching down into the southeast. And they're saying there's exceptionally high probabilities of below normal temperatures across much of the east, and it's the coldest air of the season to date, and dangerous wind chills are expected across many areas of the southeast. Just showed those models that showed that, and below freezing temperatures are possible all the way down to the Gulf Coast and even Florida, and this will cause problems for citrus crops. And then there's also the potential for snow across the south, and also heavy snow across the Ohio Valley and surrounding areas, along with super heavy lake effect snow. So this is a pretty impactful weather pattern, and this is the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook from January 5 to January 9th. Well below average temperatures across the eastern two-thirds of the U.S., especially centered around Iowa and Missouri, portions of the Midwest, and it could be a little warmer along the West Coast. But then the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook from January 7th to January 13th is what they were talking about. Extremely below average temperatures, perhaps, and extremely likely to see below average temperatures across the southeast, especially, and this could cause a lot of problems. It could even continue into weeks 3 and 4 from January 11th to January 24th. So this is going to last a while, and then you have a high risk of hazardous temperatures below normal temperatures, a high risk from January 9th to January 11th, especially across the southeast, and a moderate risk from January 7th to January 12th across pretty much most of the central and eastern U.S. So this could cause a lot of impacts, and also there's the potential for some heavy snowfall, a moderate risk, especially around the Great Lakes, it looks like, from January 7th to 11th, and then a slight risk from January 7th to 9th across the south, and then also going towards the east coast and the northeast. Here's a look at the simulated precipitation from the Euro model. Yeah, there's kind of a weak weather system kind of going across the Midwest, going towards the northeast from December 31st, January 1st, so New Year's, and then January 2nd. And then you have some lake effect snow, but this is going to get a lot more intense across the Great Lakes as that colder air moves in. Then you have this storm system across the northwestern U.S., and then look what happens. You get actually a decent winter storm across northern Missouri, southern Iowa, and eastern Kansas on January 5th. So early on Sunday, January 5th, and that kind of moves across the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. You could also get a little bit of freezing rain, especially across parts of Missouri and the kind of Ohio River area. Those places could see some freezing rain, and also thunderstorms across the southeast. We'll see if this could lead to another severe weather event, perhaps, but with snow further north, and even Virginia, Maryland, even Pennsylvania, those places could see some snowfall going across the mid-Atlantic area. Then notice what happens. You actually have a lot colder temperatures, and then you have some energy that kind of goes down from the Rockies into Colorado, New Mexico, and then there's the potential for some decent snowfall across Texas, according to the Euro model. We'll see if that happens. This is on January 9th. Some snowfall for Texas. They don't really show any big snowstorms after that, but there is the lake effect snow and this snowstorm around January 5th. The GFS is actually a bit more intense on this snowstorm, showing a lot more freezing rain across Missouri and Kentucky, even the Appalachian Mountains, and then they're showing more snowfall further north, even across the Great Lakes, and also a little bit of snow for the Northeast. Then no snow for Texas, according to the GFS, at least not right then. But then you do see a lot of lake effect snow, and then some other snowfall that's not really related to any big weather system, just because you have a lot of colder air. And then it does look like some more snow for the Northeast around January 10th, and then possibly a big nor'easter type of system around January 14th, with some lighter snowfall across the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. So the GFS has a pretty active snowfall pattern, apparently, but the Euro model shows total snowfall on the Euro model actually is pretty significant for a lot of places. You have in the Northwest, those mountains could see several feet of snowfall, of course, but then you have a big track of snowfall. If you see, it pretty much goes from January 4th and then really adds up from that storm from January 5th and 6th, but then you have, over the next 2 weeks, you have a decent track of over a foot of snow in a lot of places, like 12 to 18 inches of snowfall, going all the way from Montana, South Dakota, northeastern Nebraska, southern Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and then it even extends into the Northeast, where you can have even more snowfall, especially from winter storms and also lake effect snow. You could have several feet of snowfall behind those lakes, and even possibly 3 feet of snow in parts of upstate New York, and over 2 feet of snow in northwestern Pennsylvania, according to the Euro model. And also snowfall extends into even Virginia, possibly like 4 to 8 inches of snowfall there across parts of the mid-Atlantic, and then over a foot of snow across Texas. This would be a very significant snowstorm if this happens, for Texas. That's a lot of snow. Now the GFS shows pretty similar, but actually a lot of snowfall across the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, pretty much showing the same thing, with 12 to 18 inches of snow there from Iowa, Missouri, all the way further east to Ohio. And then behind the different lakes, you have 2 to 4 feet of snowfall, maybe even a lot more, over the next 2 weeks. And a lot of that snow is there across the lakes and upstate New York, especially. And you do have snowfall for the mountains in the Pacific Northwest. Then the GFS also shows kind of a snowstorm. This is for January 8th and 9th. A snowstorm for Texas, possibly either just a few inches for a lot of places. Further west in Texas, like 2 to 4 inches. Maybe even localized areas could see up to 8 inches of snowfall. And the GFS also showing possibly very light snowfall across the southeast. So that's pretty much what these forecast models are showing, with this weather pattern, with the Arctic blast and very cold temperatures expected for several weeks, and also the potential for heavy snowfall across the Great Lakes, and possibly some snowfall across the south. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, share the video, comment below, and hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications for more weather updates. Extreme Weather Zone, out.